Dog's desperate ocean swim leads to miracle rescue. When the town found out why she jumped, everyone was in tears. The sun had barely kissed the waters of Moreton Bay when John McPherson steered his fishing boat, the Sea Whisper, out of the marina. After 30 years of fishing these waters, he knew every ripple, every current, and every mood of this beautiful stretch of Australian coastline. But nothing could have prepared him for what this particular morning would bring. "Looks like we might get some weather later," he muttered to himself, noting the distant clouds gathering on the horizon. At 65, John's weathered face and calloused hands told stories of countless days at sea, but his eyes still held the same sparkle they had when he first started fishing these waters. The morning started routinely enough. He checked his nets, monitored the fish finder, and enjoyed the peaceful solitude that had drawn him to this life decades ago. The salty breeze carried the familiar sense of the ocean, and seabirds wheeled overhead, their cries a familiar symphony. It was around 9 o'clock when something caught his attention, something that didn't belong among the usual sounds of the sea. At first, he thought it was just the wind playing tricks, but then he heard it again. A distinct whimper carried across the waves. "That can't be right," John said aloud, cutting the engine to listen more carefully. The sound came again, clearer this time, definitely an animal in distress. Scanning the waters, his experienced eyes finally caught sight of something dark moving against the waves about 50 meters from his boat. It wasn't a seal or a dolphin. The movement was different, more desperate. As he carefully maneuvered the Sea Whisper closer, his heart nearly stopped. There, struggling against the currents, was a German shepherd, its dark coat glistening in the morning sun. The dog's eyes were wide with exhaustion and fear, its powerful legs struggling to keep its head above water. "Hold on, girl," John called out, already reaching for his rescue net. In all his years at sea, he'd never encountered anything quite like this. The dog's presence this far out in the bay was both mysterious and concerning. Where had she come from? And more importantly, where was her owner? With skilled movements born from years of experience, John maneuvered his boat into position, careful not to create waves that might further distress the struggling animal. The dog seemed to understand his intentions, weakly paddling toward the boat even as exhaustion threatened to pull her under. "That's it, come on," John encouraged, his voice gentle and steady. "Just a little bit closer." As the dog came within reach, John could see she was wearing a collar. This wasn't a stray, but someone's beloved pet. With careful movements, he lowered the rescue net, speaking softly all the while to keep the frightened animal calm. "Easy now, girl. Let's get you out of there." The German shepherd seemed to understand, and with the last of her strength, she managed to swim into the net's reach. John's muscles strained as he carefully lifted her from the water, his years of hauling nets coming in handy as he brought her safely aboard. The moment she was on deck, the dog collapsed, her sides heaving with exhaustion. John quickly grabbed a blanket from his emergency kit, wrapping it around the shivering animal. "You're safe now," he soothed, checking her collar. "Heidi," he read aloud. "Well, Heidi, let's figure out how you ended up in this mess." As John tended to Heidi, his mind raced with questions. German shepherds were strong swimmers, but finding one this far out in Moreton Bay was unprecedented. Something wasn't right. "Easy there, girl," he murmured, grabbing his water bottle and pouring some into a small bowl he kept aboard. Heidi lapped at the water gratefully, her dark eyes never leaving John's face. Despite her exhaustion, there was an urgency in her demeanor that John couldn't ignore. He reached for his radio, knowing he needed to alert the authorities. "This is Sea Whisper calling water police. Over." The radio crackled to life as he reported his unusual find, providing his coordinates and describing the situation. As he spoke with the authorities, Heidi suddenly became agitated. She struggled to her feet, her wet fur still dripping, and moved to the boat's edge, letting out a series of urgent barks. "Hold on," John told the radio operator. "Something's wrong. The dog's trying to tell me something." Heidi's behavior became more insistent. She would look out to sea, bark, then turned back to John with what could only be described as a pleading expression. Years of reading the ocean had taught John to trust his instincts, and right now, they were screaming that Heidi hadn't ended up in the water by accident. She must have fallen off a boat. He realized aloud, and I'd bet my last dollar her owner's still out there. With renewed urgency, John returned to the radio. Water police, be advised we may have a person in distress. The dog appears to be signaling for help. I'm going to begin a search pattern. He knew the drill. He'd participated in enough searches over the years. Starting from his current position, he began a methodical grid pattern, scanning the waters while Heidi remained alert at the bow, her ears perked forward. The morning sun was now high in the sky, making the water sparkle like diamonds. It would have been beautiful if not for the gravity of their mission. John kept one eye on his depth finder and another on the horizon, while Heidi remained focused, occasionally letting out sharp barks. After what felt like hours but was probably only 45 minutes, Heidi's behavior suddenly changed. Her barking became more intense, and she began pawing at the starboard side of the boat. "You see something, girl?" John asked, already turning the wheel. That's when he spotted it. A small fishing boat, listing badly to one side, with no visible movement on board. His heart racing, John carefully approached the vessel. As they drew closer, he could make out a figure slumped over the controls. "Water police, this is Sea Whisper," he called into the radio. "I've located a vessel with what appears to be an unconscious person aboard. Coordinates are..." Before he could finish, Heidi let out a series of emotional whines, clearly recognizing the boat and its occupant. The vessel was a 20-foot recreational fishing boat, the kind popular with weekend anglers. Its name, Sunday Best, was painted in fading letters on the hull. With the skill of a seasoned mariner, John maneuvered the Sea Whisper alongside the Sunday Best. Heidi's whimpers grew more urgent as they drew closer, and John could now clearly see the unconscious man, gray-haired, probably in his 60s, slumped awkwardly over the boat's controls. "Water police, I have a medical emergency," John reported, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Subject appears unconscious, requesting immediate assistance." The response was immediate. "Rescue helicopter dispatched. ETA 15 minutes. Can you secure the vessel?" John was already reaching for his mooring lines. "Affirmative. Attempting to board now." With decades of experience on the water, John knew the dangers of transferring between vessels. The sea, though relatively calm, still created enough movement to make the maneuver treacherous. Heidi watched intently, her whole body trembling with nervous energy. "Stay," John commanded firmly, not wanting her to attempt the dangerous crossing. To his surprise, the exhausted dog obeyed, though her eyes never left her owner. Using his boat hook, John carefully pulled the Sunday Best closer, securing it with practiced movements. The moment he had a stable connection, he made the precarious transfer, his heart pounding with each step. Up close, the situation looked grim. The man's skin was pale and clammy, but John found a pulse weak but present. The boat's cabin showed signs of a hasty departure, fishing gear scattered about, a half-empty water bottle rolling with the waves. "Mate, can you hear me?" John called out, gently shaking the man's shoulder. No response. In the distance, he could hear the distinctive thrum of helicopter blades. Help was coming, but the immediate challenge was keeping the man stable. John checked the man's wallet, finding an ID card. "Michael Thompson, hang in there," he muttered, arranging the unconscious man in a better position. "Help's on the way." The rescue helicopter appeared on the horizon, growing larger by the second. From his boat, Heidi let out a series of excited barks, as if understanding that salvation was at hand. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. The helicopter hovered overhead, its downdraft creating a maelstrom of spray. A rescue medic was lowered onto the Sunday Best, quickly assessing Michael's condition. "Possible heart attack," the medic shouted over the roar of the rotors. "We need to airlift him immediately." As they prepared Michael for evacuation, Heidi's whines became more distressed. She paced the deck of the Sea Whisper, watching every movement with intense concentration. "The dog," John called to the medic. "She's his. She was in the water when I found her." The medic's eyes widened with understanding. "She must have fallen overboard, and he collapsed trying to find her. We'll need to get her to shore too." As the helicopter lifted Michael away, John turned his attention to Heidi. "Time to get you to shore, girl. Your job here is done." The German Shepherd finally seemed to relax slightly, though her eyes remained fixed on the disappearing helicopter. The journey back to the marina was vastly different from his peaceful morning departure. The water police had radioed ahead, and by the time the Sea Whisper approached the dock, a small crowd had gathered. News travels fast in coastal communities, and word of the dramatic rescue had already spread through local networks. Among the waiting crowd was a veterinarian, Dr. Sarah Chan, who had been called to check on Heidi. As John helped secure the boat, Dr. Chan immediately went to work examining the exhausted dog. "She's remarkably strong," Dr. Chan commented, checking Heidi's vital signs. "Swimming in open water for that long. She must have been running on pure adrenaline and determination." Local news reporters had already arrived, cameras rolling as John recounted the morning's events. Heidi, despite her ordeal, maintained her dignified bearing, sitting regally beside John as he spoke. "I've been fishing these waters for 30 years, John told the gathered crowd. "But I've never seen anything like this, the bond between Heidi and her owner. That's something special." The story quickly captured public imagination. A dog swimming desperately in open water, a fisherman's timely rescue, and the discovery of an unconscious owner. It had all the elements of an extraordinary tale. By evening, updates arrived from the hospital. Michael Thompson had indeed suffered a mild heart attack, but thanks to the quick rescue, he was stable and recovering. The doctors revealed that if help hadn't arrived when it did, the outcome could have been tragically different. At the veterinary clinic where Heidi was kept for observation, a steady stream of visitors arrived with treats and well wishes. Children pressed their faces against the clinic windows, hoping to catch a glimpse of the heroic dog. "The thing is," John explained to a reporter later that day, "Heidi didn't just fall overboard. According to the investigators, there are signs she actually jumped in after a life jacket that had blown off the boat. When she couldn't get back aboard, Michael appears to have become distraught trying to find her in the waves. That's when he had his heart attack." The reporter scribbled frantically. "So she's not just brave, she's responsible too?" John nodded. "German Shepherds are working dogs. They have a strong sense of duty. She probably thought she was doing her job, protecting equipment. She couldn't have known it would lead to all this." The following days brought a whirlwind of activity to the usually quiet Moreton Bay community. Michael Thompson's hospital room became a hub of activity, with Heidi finally reunited with her owner once he was stable enough for visitors. The moment of their reunion brought tears to the eyes of even the most stoic hospital staff. "My brave girl," Michael whispered, his voice weak but filled with emotion as Heidi gently nuzzled his hand. "You saved my life." John, who had been invited to witness the reunion, felt a lump in his throat. The bond between man and dog was palpable, a testament to the depth of love possible between humans and their animal companions. The story had gone viral, reaching far beyond the shores of Moreton Bay. National news networks picked up the tale, and soon John found himself fielding calls from international media outlets. But it was the local impact that touched him most deeply. During one of his visits to Michael and Heidi, a conversation changed the course of his life. "You know, John," Michael said, sitting up in his hospital bed with Heidi faithfully by his side, "this whole experience has got me thinking. There's no dedicated animal rescue service for marine emergencies in Moreton Bay." John nodded thoughtfully. "I've thought about that too. In 30 years of fishing, I've seen my share of animals in distress out there. What if we did something about it?" Michael's eyes sparkled with purpose. "Between your experience on the water and my business background, I used to run a successful company before retiring. We could create something meaningful." The idea took root, growing stronger with each passing day. John found himself spending his evenings researching marine animal rescue operations around the world. He learned about specialized equipment, training protocols, and the various challenges faced by similar organizations. Local authorities took notice of their initiative. The mayor of Moreton Bay Regional Council called a meeting to discuss the possibility of establishing an official marine animal rescue service. What happened with Heidi has shown us a gap in our emergency services, the mayor explained during the meeting. We need to be better prepared for situations involving animals in our waters. Within weeks, Heidi's Heroes Marine Rescue was born. John and Michael worked tirelessly to transform their vision into reality. They converted John's old fishing boat, the Sea Whisper, into a proper rescue vessel, equipped with specialized gear for helping animals in distress. But they didn't stop there. Recognizing the educational opportunity, they developed a program to teach local children about marine safety and responsible pet ownership. Heidi, now recovered from her ordeal, became the face of the program, visiting schools and community events. The transformation of Moreton Bay's waterfront community was remarkable. What began as one dramatic rescue evolved into a movement that touched countless lives, both human and animal. Heidi's Heroes Marine Rescue quickly became more than just an emergency service. Under John and Michael's leadership, it grew into a comprehensive community organization. They established their headquarters in an old boathouse donated by the local council, transforming it into a modern rescue center complete with educational facilities. Every animal deserves a chance, John would often say during the center's popular weekend tours. What Heidi taught us is that sometimes the ones we think need rescuing end up rescuing us instead. The center's educational programs became particularly popular. Several times a week, school buses would arrive filled with excited children eager to learn about marine safety and animal care. Heidi, now sporting an official rescue dog vest, would greet each group with dignified patience, allowing tiny hands to pat her while John shared her remarkable story. Who can tell me what to do if their dog falls into the water? John would ask his young audience. Call Heidi's Heroes. The children would chorus, having learned the emergency number by heart. Michael, fully recovered from his heart attack, threw himself into the administrative side of the organization. His business acumen proved invaluable as they expanded their services. They added a second rescue boat, appropriately named Second Chance, and trained a team of volunteer responders. The impact on the community was profound. Local fishermen began reporting wildlife in distress more frequently. Knowing help was just a radio call away. The center helped rescue injured seabirds, stranded dolphins, and even the occasional sea turtle. One memorable rescue involved a young seal pup that had become entangled in fishing net. The rescue team, led by John, worked carefully to free the frightened animal while Heidi watched from the boat, as if supervising their technique. She's become quite the supervisor, John would joke, though he noticed how the other animals seemed calmer when Heidi was present during rescues. The center also became a hub for marine research. Scientists from nearby universities partnered with Heidi's Heroes to study marine wildlife behavior and develop better rescue techniques. They even created a special harness designed for helping dogs in water emergencies, inspired by Heidi's experience. As the months passed, the organization's reputation grew. Other coastal communities began reaching out, seeking advice on starting similar programs. John and Michael found themselves traveling up and down the Australian coast, sharing their expertise and helping establish new rescue centers. 1 year after Heidi's dramatic rescue, the Moreton Bay waterfront was transformed for a special celebration. Colorful bunting stretched between lamp posts, and information booths lined the marina boardwalk. It was the first annual Heidi's Heroes Marine Safety Day, and the entire community had turned out to participate. "Look how far we've come," Michael marveled, standing beside John as they watched families explore the interactive displays. Heidi, now a local celebrity, sat regally between them, her gray muzzle showing signs of distinguished age, but her eyes still bright and alert. The day's events included demonstrations of water rescue techniques, marine wildlife education sessions, and safety workshops for pet owners. Local boat owners proudly displayed new safety equipment specifically designed for four-legged passengers, a direct result of Heidi's experience. During the main ceremony, the mayor presented John and Michael with a community service award. But the most touching moment came when a young girl stepped up to the microphone. She was Emma, a 9-year-old whose puppy had been rescued by Heidi's Heroes just 2 months earlier after falling off her family's boat. "Before Heidi's Heroes, I was scared to take our dog sailing," Emma said, her voice clear and confident. "But now I know what to do to keep her safe, and that there are people who will help if something goes wrong. Thank you, Heidi, for showing us that one dog's bravery can change everything." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. Even John, weather-beaten and usually stoic, had to wipe away a tear. The celebration continued into the evening with a community barbecue. Old fishermen swapped stories with young families. Volunteer rescuers chatted with marine biologists, and children took turns giving Heidi gentle pats and treats. As the sun set over Moreton Bay, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, John reflected on how one unexpected morning had led to all this. He watched as Heidi dozed contentedly near Michael's chair, surrounded by the community she had helped build. "You know," Michael said softly, "sometimes the greatest acts of heroism aren't the dramatic rescues. Sometimes they're the small choices we make that ripple out and touch others' lives." John nodded, understanding completely. What had started as a simple rescue had grown into something far more meaningful. A community united in purpose. A shared commitment to protecting all lives, both human and animal, on their beloved bay. As the stars began to appear over the water, the gathered crowd joined in singing a special song written by local schoolchildren about Heidi's adventure. The German shepherd lifted her head, ears perked, as if acknowledging that she had indeed started something special, something that would continue to grow and inspire long after her own remarkable story had become a cherished local legend. 5 years after Heidi's fateful swim, her legacy continued to grow in ways no one could have predicted. The small rescue center had blossomed into the largest marine safety training facility on Australia's east coast. But more importantly, it had sparked a movement that touched countless lives. One sunny morning, John sat in his familiar spot on the rescue center's deck, watching the sunrise over the bay. At his feet lay Luna, Heidi's young successor, a German shepherd rescue who had shown the same remarkable instincts for water rescue work. Though Heidi had passed peacefully 2 years earlier, her spirit lived on in every aspect of the center's work. "Morning, John," called Michael, walking up the ramp with his morning coffee. Despite being well into his 70s now, he still came to the center every day. "Did you see the numbers from last month?" John smiled. 312 rescues, wasn't it? And not just pets anymore. The center's work had expanded far beyond its original mission. They now coordinated with wildlife services across Australia, helping with everything from whale entanglements to seabird rehabilitation. The educational program had reached over 50,000 schoolchildren, and their safety protocols had been adopted by maritime organizations worldwide. But it was the personal stories that meant the most. Like the elderly woman who could still enjoy beach walks with her companion dog thanks to the special life vest program they developed. Or the commercial fisherman who'd used their training to save a pod of dolphins caught in his nets. That morning, as they did every year, they were preparing for the annual Heidi's Heroes Youth Leadership Camp. 40 teenagers from across the country would spend 2 weeks learning about marine conservation, water safety, and animal care. Many previous participants had gone on to careers in veterinary science, marine biology, or emergency services. "Remember what Emma said at that first celebration?" Michael asked, watching as Luna practiced water retrieval exercises with one of their trainers. "About one dog's bravery changing everything?" John nodded, his weathered face creasing into a smile. She was right, though it wasn't just Heidi's bravery. It was the way her story reminded people of what really matters. Looking out for each other, whether we have 2 legs or 4. As if on cue, the morning quiet was broken by the rescue alarm. Luna's ears perked up, and John was already moving toward the boats. This time it was a report of a sea turtle tangled in debris near the reef. "Another day at Heidi's Heroes," Michael chuckled, watching John and Luna board the rescue vessel with practiced efficiency. As the boat pulled away from the dock, a photo of Heidi caught the morning sun, her image proudly displayed on the center's wall of honor. Below it was inscribed the center's motto, words that had inspired thousands. "Courage knows no species, love knows no bounds, and every life is worth saving." The legacy of one brave dog's swim continued to ripple outward, touching more lives with each passing day, proving that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a single act of devotion.